Go.
Say your names.
I'm Andrea Rincon.
I'm Chandra Jackson.
My name is Bianca Campos.
And my name is Victor Ramos. This is Mr. LaFosse's World Literature class, 2333, section 51. And today we're going to be doing our presentation over the plays of the Theater of the Absurd.
The Theater of the Absurd was a short-lived yet significant theatrical presentation, centralized in Paris in the 1950s. Largely based on the philosophy of existentialism, absurdism was implemented by a small number of European playwrights. Their works express what happens when human existence has no meaning or purpose. Common elements from the plays during that time period contained these characteristics. Most of them were some of them were without purpose, illogical, out of harmony. They were useless, devoid of reason, lacking order, uncertain, chaotic, hopeless, and meaningless.
Okay. And as you can tell from here, we just have a general overview of the time span that we'll be going into. First, we'll be kind of looking into things that were relevant but weren't part of the movement themselves. The first one being Thornton Wilder's The Long Christmas Dinner. This one it took place over 90 years of a Christmas dinner where the actors struggled to keep up. They would be changing clothes every few minutes, and they would, it's like they would have to rush through dialogue to kind of get to the end. The play. The play was introduced back in 1931. Let's see. Like the Theater of Absurd, this was a bizarre aspect. This was sort of just to kind of jolt the audience, to kind of get them to see that how volatilely fast time can move and how how life is fleeting. With the second one, it's Jean Todar with The Underground Love. This one took place back in 1934. This particular play took place in a metro station where two lovers sort of like giving each other compliments, and they're just kind of being lovey-dovey, and there's some other passengers, and then they have a quarrel where the female runs away and the male chases her, and then they kind of get in a line, and he has to like talk to people in order to get up to the front to where she is, and these are just like weird and just like nonsensical kind of conversations. And of course, like she wants him to get to the front of the line to get to her, so she like passes a note to kind of like egg him on. But by the time that he gets up to the front, especially after he sees that he's been talking to an attractive film actress, then she's sort of melancholic by the time he gets up to the front. But then whenever a whistle blows, then she kind of reverts back to like the lovey-doveyness that they started at the very beginning. Let's see. The part that makes this sort of fit the absurdity is that the dialogue in it is more rhythmic, and it's like it's like at some point whenever they're having an argument, the only thing they're saying is just like women's names back and forth at each other, and it's kind of doing like a rhyme, and it's been described as a comic ballet without dance or music. It's like the way that the dialogue is set up, it also goes into is that he kind of influences other people such as like Samuel Beckett, and which leads us to this one.
Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. He was an Irish novelist, playwright, theater director, and poet. He was born April 13, 1906 in Dublin, Ireland, and died December 22nd, 1989 in Paris, France. As well as being the novelist, playwright, theater director, he's also the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. And in the story, Waiting for Godot, it was a play done in 1952 and is known for its lack of plot. The two characters wait for the arrival of someone named Goddard who never arrives. They wait until night and return the next day and continue to wait. And it paints a picture of daily life as repetitive and stagnant. It lacks meaning and purpose and entails perpetual suffering. And then his next play was The Endgame, and it was completed in 1957. And it's set after an apocalyptic event, maybe World War II, it doesn't really say. But in the play, the end has already happened. The characters have just failed to come to terms with it. And there is an impression of watching the end of something, but no something is defined.
Kruma, it was written by Manuel de Pedrolo, which he was born from Spain, from Catalonia. He was a novelist and a playwright as well as other occupations and ventures. This specific play is set in a mysterious apartment where two men are hired to measure the apartment with endless amounts of rulers. And they encounter ghostly apparitions that make them question themselves, their inhumanity. Basically, the play puts into question, can ourselves as human beings maintain our true, genuine self without isolating ourselves and hiding that from society? Or do we have to conform to what everyone else wants us to be, which is fake and fit in and all that stuff?
The Balcony is by Jean Genet, and it's just a play about this brothel in Britain, I think it is. But it just talks about like different characters. There's a chief of police, a general, a bishop, and a general. But there's these men that come into this brothel and want to become this general and this policeman, and they play out their fantasies with these women. And while all of this is going on, there's a war just outside of the brothel. And the whole idea of this play just talks about like the reality and the dreams that people have, you know, in times of war. And it just really, you know, emphasized on that. And the play like addresses the illusion about the breakdown of society and the depictions of the judicial system, the military, and because it really talks about and it emphasizes like the different types of the queen is also included in this play, and it just reflects on Genet's interest in sexuality and rebellion and politics. He was actually the son of a prostitute, and she left him when he was a baby, and he had been in foster care all his life, and he had been called a thief by his foster mother when he was a teenager, which led him to do more bad in his life, and led him to prostitution and to become a smuggler. And he was in jail for a while, and that's when he began his writing career.
Okay. And in this next one, we have the memo, or the memorandum, which was first performed in 1961, written by Václav Havel, which this was before he became the president of the Czech Republic, which he then got him out of the from under the Iron Curtain. This is sort of a communist type comedy where it sort of points out things that were wrong with how business and how government was kind of being run. You know, it's like this, the way it made it bizarre was there's a director of an unnamed business, The character's name, is Andrew Gross, and he's just kind of doing his job, and then like he gets an audit, and it's in a very different language. They tell him, well, this is it's more efficient. Like it takes out words that kind of sound like each other, like fox and ox, and it takes out words that kind of like have connotations with like emotions. So they're just saying, it's like, okay, well, you have to fill this out, but he also can't really get anybody to help read it to him unless they have a permit. He has an assistant. He finds a secretary named Maria who translates it for him. But then, like right after that, she gets fired and he gets demoted. And a guy who was kind of just like, just kind of being sleazy around him, like he takes his job. So he has to, like his job becomes basically spying on the workers to kind of like make sure that they're doing their job and stuff, while Maria, she gets fired because she didn't have the proper permit to like translate it. So this like, it's like that kind of goes on for a while, and then all of the people that, all the people that were learning this new language, which, Tidy, which is the name of the language that they were having, that he was having to try and learn. They dropped this after a while, and they replaced it with another language by the name of Chorkor, which is, they change it so that it's more closely related to, it's like to more, to other words that kind of sound the same, and it's basically just the opposite because they think that this is going to make it easier for people to learn this language. Of course, like, this really doesn't take off, and they decide to go back to the mother language, and by the end of this play, like, everybody just kind of gives up on it, and they just sort of all go to lunch. So it, it kind of works out that way. The play subtly highlights how in business, in government as well as government, there's an underlying motive to get things done, and to also kind of like do whatever you need to do and backstab what you need to backstab in order to get these things done. So it's kind of highlighting on politics in that way.
The Automobile Graveyard was written by Fernando Arrabal, which is another Spanish author that contributed to the Theater of the Absurd. He lived in France for the majority of his life since 1954. He was an avid admirer of Samuel Beckett's work, but he kind of like sticks to his own work as far as like surrealist, traditional Spanish. Basically, this specific play was considered a parody of Over the Story of Christ by many critics. Fernando Arrabal with this play, he kind of questions religion, questions God in a very symbolic way. The play's main character is a prostitute that keeps on, her profession of prostituting herself to her neighbor because religion demands her to be, to give to your neighbor, to be kind to your neighbor. And what is the greatest act than to be for your neighbor than to give yourself entirely? This was basically a question over religion and how it oppresses women and how it oppresses people in general.
Sunset Limited is a play, but kind of novel by Cormac McCarthy, and it's during the modern times, so it was post World War II, and in this play there's two characters, one is white and one is black, and those are how they're identified, as white and black. So back and forth, they're in, they find themselves in this train station where white tries to kill himself, and black saves him, and he talks about how he was meant to save him. He was meant to be there that day. And White just doesn't buy it. He talks about how he believed in all these things. He believed in art, he believed in books, he believed in so many things. And with the world today, after the war, he stopped. People stopped believing in things, people stopped doing things that they wanted to do, and he kind of died with that, and that was the reason that he wanted to kill himself. And in this whole play, it's just a back and forth about the existence of God and you know, the why man is here. And it was just a really a good play about just different, you know, viewpoints. And at the end of the play, White is just, he's tired of hearing all these things and having his beliefs questioned. So at the end he just leaves, and Black doesn't want him to leave because he doesn't want him to kill himself. But he lets him go anyways, and at the end of the play he asks God, why did you let me save him if you didn't give me the words to save him? And he just bows down and he says, if that's the way you want it, and if that's okay, then, you know, I'll let you have it. And that was pretty much the whole play.
In conclusion, Theater of the Absurd can be said that it wasn't an organized movement. Some people that were the authors, writers, and playwrights that unwillingly contributed to this time and this period, they will say that they weren't part of that movement because it's a very questionable movement. It wasn't an organized movement. It was more of an expression of the world post-World War II. After all the atrocities that happened in the world, people were questioning God. People were questioning humanity. People were questioning each other. They were very pessimistic about the world. They were very pessimistic about humanity, which is currently what we're living through today. And they symbolically conveyed through their plays and literature. One can say it was either a self-enlightenment to trying to figure out what was going on with themselves and with the world, and it was more of a coping mechanism for what the writers had faced during that era, because most of these writers were after World War II. That's it.
Thank you very much.